What begins as a weary father's routine unravels into something far colder than exhaustion. Shadows that clung too close turned sharper, stranger, when a child's innocent stories of a playground friend collided with a relentless presence no adult eye could ignore. Promises made in distraction became creeping dread. Whispers of forgiveness from the dark, phantom paw prints indoors, a silhouette warped and waiting where no living thing could stand. But the buried secret refused to stay buried, clawing its way back with muddy hands and fractured memories. How does a man outrun the wrongness he swore was just a child's imagination, especially when the truth wears a face he once loved? The drive home was a weight. Each turn of the wheels seemed to drag a little heavier, the man's shoulders slumping further with every passing moment. Another day done, another layer of exhaustion settling deep into his bones. Usually the evenings were for quiet collapse, but now there was a small, insistent joy waiting for him. A trip to collect his daughter from her afternoon at the Center for Children. She was always brimming with stories, a whirlwind of youthful energy. He listened with a tired sort of fondness, the details of her day blurring into a comforting hum in the background. She spoke of a friend she'd made at the playground, a four-legged companion she'd spent the afternoon with, petting its soft fur and sharing her snacks. He registered the words, offered a vague acknowledgement, and dismissed it as the fanciful imagining of a child. He wasn't a person who understood animals, a subtle discomfort stirring within him whenever they were near. He promised, without much thought, he'd come see this special friend with her sometime. Days turned into a slow, repetitive rhythm. Each pickup was largely the same, a brief recounting of the day delivered with cheerful enthusiasm, but she kept returning to the playground friend. It was more than storytelling now, a quiet insistence that he understand. He continued to brush it off, dismissing it with empty assurances. The weight of his grief, a constant companion since his wife had been gone, made it hard to focus on anything beyond simply getting through each hour. Then came the evening when he arrived late, stretched too thin by the demands of his job. The girl's voice was different that night, softer somehow, tinged with an unusual calmness. A pronouncement rather than a story. "The dog followed you home today." He frowned, a flicker of confusion passing over his face. He hadn't seen a dog. He hadn't even been with her on the walk home. How could she possibly know? He attributed it to fatigue, a trick of the mind playing out in the dim light of the car. But a seed of unease had been planted. It grew in the quiet moments when he was alone with his thoughts. One evening, taking out the refuse, a sound stopped him cold, a delicate scraping against the concrete. He turned, heart leaping, and glimpsed a shadow beneath the vehicle. Not a shadow like from a passing cloud, but a distinct shape, too still, too wrong. The form seemed to bend at impossible angles, and when he could discern the eyes, they were dark, unblinking, fixed on him. He shouted, throwing a nearby container in the direction of the shape, and it scrambled back, a jerky, unnatural movement before disappearing into the surrounding darkness. The next day, the girl spoke of the dog again. "He's not angry anymore," she said, her voice remote as though speaking from a great distance. "He wants you to visit." A wave of cold washed over him. He hadn't shared the previous night's encounter. She had no way of knowing. Later he found them. Small, damp impressions on the floor inside the house, leading down the hallway. His breath hitched in his throat as he followed the trail, a growing dread tightening in his chest. Then he saw it standing at the end of the hall, shrouded in shadow. The shape was wrong, elongated and impossibly thin. Its mouth was open, revealing too many teeth, gleaming in the soft light. It simply stared, unmoving, before receding into the darkness. The girl's voice, when it came, was devoid of warmth. "He says he's cold where you left him. He says it hurts." The man felt the blood drain from his face. A memory surfaced, fractured and hazy. That night, the exhaustion, the streetlights blurring, the sickening thud beneath the tires of his car. He hadn't thought much of it then, dismissing it as a stray animal. He'd quickly, efficiently, put the matter to rest, wanting to avoid any further thought. But this creature refused to be forgotten. A presence at the edge of his vision, a flicker of movement just beyond his awareness. At work, a sudden noise sent him reeling, colleagues offering concerned glances. At the Center for Children, the staff whispered amongst themselves as he arrived and departed, their eyes lingering a moment too long. Then one morning, a teacher stopped him, her voice strained. "Why do you continue bringing her here?" she asked, a strange note in her voice. "We haven't seen her in weeks." The words burrowed into his ears, a stark, impossible echo. He would never. Then he saw it across the parking lot beneath the bare branches of the winter trees. The shape, watching, waiting. Something inside him fractured, a delicate balance irrevocably broken. He drove, a puppet controlled by unseen strings. The road became a swirling blur of rain and trembling hands. The car guided itself toward that patch of neglected land behind the property, where the earth was soft and yielding. He fell to his knees, the mud seeping into his trousers, the cold biting through the fabric. His hands, driven by something beyond his control, began to dig, clawing at the soil. A part of his mind screamed that this was madness, that he had simply buried a dog, nothing more. But the image of those dark, knowing eyes burned in his memory. A glimpse of color, pink, sodden, stopped him. He dug faster, frantically, ignoring the protests of his reason. A small shoe came next, scuffed and worn. Then a hand, pale, still. No, it couldn't be. He hadn't hit a dog, just a dog. But the hand was too small, too delicate, too human. And as the rain washed away the clinging earth, revealing the face he knew so well, the final, fragile illusion shattered. It wasn't a dog. It was her, his daughter, and she had waited for him to remember. What do you think really happened that night on the road? Leave your comments below on your thoughts. Like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell for more content like this.